All right. And for those people that don't totally know, we don't know exactly what's going to be how we're going to spin this wheel and what it's going to land on too.
Exactly. So, welcome everyone. It's Wheel Decide Wednesday. This is Dr. Megan Miller,
And Joe Smith.
and we're about to spin our wheel and see what our topic is.
All right. And then Megan, with this wheel, whatever topic it lands on, we have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to discuss that topic. And of course, as you know, we don't even, prepare for this whatsoever. As on the fly, we're as fresh as M&M.
I don't know about that, but
Maybe not, maybe not.
So, leaving everyone in suspense because you could hear it landed. So, our topic for tonight is ethical caseload totals. And that was another one from Buffy.
Buffy.
So, she gets like double the swag once I get more swag. So, we're trying to get stuff with like the actual Do Better podcast on it, or some of the new branding for Do Better. We have the Do Better Collective starting soon. Our beta testing is going to start on Saturday for anyone who's taken any Do Better courses or participated in the Do Better Couch to Camp. So people will get to start testing that out. So we're updating all of our swag to match the new stuff.
Nice. That's super exciting, Megan.
I know I went first last time, so you get to go first this time. I remembered.
Oh, man. All right. So this is going to be a really interesting perspective for both of us. Just because I'm a newer BCBA and I came from a field where it's expected that you just work. So I was a teacher for 12 years, as some of you might know, and we were expected to just work our tails off. It doesn't matter if you work on the weekend. It doesn't matter if you work late at night. It just matters that you get it done by the deadline and that you stay on top of your stuff. There is no idea of the self-care, or there was no talk of like, making sure that you shut down at some time at the night, which that's why I feel like our field as like the education field gets burned out so quickly, is because they don't take that in consideration, and it's not talked about as broadly, or it's not accepted by administration as to why you didn't get something done. But as far as like us as BCBAs, is a different field, and it does matter that we're remaining ethical and having a caseload that we're able to maintain. I think an ethical caseload is almost defined by each individual area that you're servicing. So for like in this area, an ethical caseload for us is like depending on the number of hours that we have to be able to bill insurance companies, and we have to maintain that number. So then we're being able to make enough money to keep the company afloat, and for us to also be able to, for us to also make sure that our paychecks are, we cover our paychecks too. I think that's a big component of it, as far as like what an ethical part of what an ethical caseload is that your caseload should have enough, should be able to cover what you need to cover for the company. And my time's up, and I could keep on going.
Well, and we did talk about doing an episode on this as well, because it is a more
it's
in-depth
a
topic. So, all right. Okay, so for me, it's kind of similar to what you were talking about, Joe. When I was running navigation, we tried to take into account a few things, and we came up with some stuff. I haven't really disseminated it. I'm not sure if I will. It's hiding somewhere in my box folders, but there was a time especially where we had quite a few new BCBAs, and we wanted to try to make sure that people were being given the caseloads that they should. And so I don't have a number for people, but I do think that there's factors that should be considered. So Joe, you touched on one of them. Obviously, one piece of having an ethical caseload is making sure there's enough hours being provided for medical necessity for the
Yeah.
clients and to keep the company afloat, because if
Yeah.
your company goes under, there's no caseloads. So there has
And
to be
then,
some sort of budgeting involved in
yeah,
that as well. And part of our ethical code is to, not abandon clients and to make sure that we can provide those services. So
yeah,
that's one piece of it for sure. Another piece would be the like number of hours that the client that's medically necessary for the client to receive. So how many hours of time, and we didn't even say if it's ethical caseload for BCBAs or RBTs, but
yeah,
for both, that would be a consideration. Another consideration would be the competencies of the BCBA and the RBT, both individually and together. So if I'm looking at building caseloads, I need to look at the BCBA that's on this case, are they a good match for the clients? And if there's a lot of factors that come into play, sometimes in terms of location and things like that BCBA is the one that's going to be on the case, but they have someone mentoring them and whatnot. So there's like more going in for them. Then you might not give them a bunch of other clients if that client is taking up a lot of their time and whatnot.
yeah,
Same for the RBT. So that's a piece of it. And then just the individual needs of the client as well, in terms of looking at, some cases you're just working potentially on various social skills
yeah,
and your programming might not get updated very often, versus other cases you might have an early learner who is acquiring skills rapidly and needs constant updating of their
mhm,
programming. So to me, it's not so much like you can't just say that a magic number. It's like you have to be looking at all of these different factors and then sort of reflecting on where things are. I will say, as like just a general rule for newer BCBAs, we tried to limit it to like 5 to 10 clients. Again, looking at all of those factors. For BCBAs who were more seasoned, and if especially they had more seasoned RBTs on their cases that were like helping with stuff, then we might do 10 to 15 clients. But we tried to never go above that. And then some places have different tiers of things. So there might be a
yeah,
BCBA overseeing other BCBAs. So that entire BCBA, their caseload might be like 30, but really they're not doing the programming and whatnot. They're more like overseeing stuff. So
yeah.
I definitely went over on my time a little bit. Sorry about that.
Well, no, that's good. I like that aspect. I think also a big component that we didn't really touch on is just travel time too.
Yeah.
I think that's a big component as to what's an ethical caseload, just because, especially in Hampton Roads, it's just like we have a very broad area of a big area of where we service, because we have 7 cities all connected to each other. So that makes it difficult. Um, but if you're like out towards like a different area like oh, what do I want to say? Maybe like the suburbs of DC. That's a little bit different because like you're more localized as far as seeing your clients, and you don't have to worry about maybe there's an hour commute time between your clients. So that's another thing I wanted to point out too.
Yeah,
But
that's definitely an important piece of it. And I think there should be, and again, we'll probably do an episode on this. I'll just stop talking after this.
yeah,
There should also be like in your training and your coursework and your supervision, we definitely should hopefully people are getting some sort of training on that, like how to reflect for themselves. Again, there's kind of a difference between, oh, this is a lot of work to do and I have a lot going on, versus like, no, this is really my limit. And like, I cannot effectively provide services with this many clients or like this mixture of cases. Right. So I don't know that the training programs are necessarily doing a good enough job on
Yeah.
helping people sort of check in on that.
Yeah, that would be a great topic to discuss further. Just like, how do you know the difference? Like, what do you have to like? What questions you need to ask yourself to really decide? Is this just I'm overwhelmed with a lot of work, or is it just I can't really keep up at all? None of my clients are happy. Um, I can't do a good enough job with for any of my clients.
Yeah. We had a couple comments. Eric, for those of you looking for a dream job in New York, said that their BCBAs have 12 to 14 students per caseload in their school, and that's with no travel time. So that's lovely. And Brittany said, this is great content for someone like me who's in grad school and is wondering what to expect as a future BCBA. You are very welcome, Brittany. And Robert said, Robert said, I liked that bringing up the skill level is important in assessing how much someone can take on. That is the same in most client facing industries. So not just behavior analysis, but other industries as well that serve clients. That's a consideration that has to be made. And of course, you know, as a teacher, Joe,
Yeah,
that wasn't a choice you really had. You had to deal with whatever they gave you. So
yeah, and I tell you what, like it's the same. Like there are so many times that teachers are put in unethical positions. Like I can think of a situation long ago in a private school. They had a teacher in there that's kind of like a not a full fledged teacher, but like a co-teacher, but she's just going through her training to become a teacher. But yeah, she's stuck in a classroom with like 10 to 15 kids that are in kindergarten. Kindergarten is a tough age. And then you had to be fluent and also have the skill set to be manage the behaviors in that classroom, or else you're just going to feel so overwhelmed that you're just going to want to quit the field.
yep.
Um, and that's something that's really important to take in consideration.
Yes, exactly. Eric threw in one last comment there. He said they are hiring at Tradewinds. And myself, Greg Hanley, and Pat McGreevy consult with them. So if you're looking for an amazing job, move on up to New York and check out Tradewinds. All right. So we're going to go ahead and close out for tonight because I have another thing starting at 8. And we will see you all next Wednesday, hopefully, as long as everything's going smoothly for Joe and moving and whatnot.
It should be. I'm not closing on the house next week. That's the following week on the 28th. So,
and that's on like the Wheel Decide Wednesday. So we'll either be doing it and like having a live cheers to like closing on your house, or we're not going to be here that night because you'll be celebrating or doing something else.
well, yeah, I mean, like it probably, I mean, if anything, that day I might be, having to go to the office and host a podcast. So we'll just see. So
sounds good. All right, everyone. Have a good rest of the week. Thanks for joining us.